You just can't beat the relaxed, beachy vibe here at Gulfstream Park as we check out Gulfstream through the years and we see what's on tap this Wednesday, or Thursday rather, March the 15th. March Madness begins. Acacia Courtney, Jason Blewett alongside. Little March Madness here at Gulfstream Park and the Ides of March as we settle in for just a 10-race card.
That's right, 10 races today. Of course, the story continues to be that Rainbow Six, $3.2 million. We had some big prices yesterday afternoon, so we'll see what's in store for today as we gear up for the weekend, the inside information this weekend. So lots of good stuff coming up here.
One of my favorite fillies of all time. I just think back to a time when I was in high school just discovering thoroughbred racing, and Chug McGahee had both inside information and Heavenly Prize at the same time in the same barn, and obviously they were a force to be reckoned with, and inside information running herself into the Hall of Fame and the record books with that big win in the 1995 Breeders' Cup Distaff over the sloppy track at Belmont Park. Now, as Acacia mentioned, the weekend just about upon us here as we close in on that ExpressBet.com $1 million Florida Derby. There's just 13 full cards remaining this championship meet. Today, obviously, one of them, and tomorrow, the Friday 11 race card, one of them as well, and the pressure's on. Back from Vegas, still getting acclimated here to life in sunny South Florida, but I'm up for Beat the Expert.
You're up. Pressure is on. I think even last week, Ron Nicoletti had 5 winners, and they still ended up coming back to beat him. So it's always been a lot of fun for us. You can go to our Facebook page and enter there. Jason has won it a couple times, so come on and join in. Should be a fun day.
Absolutely. As we do a little housekeeping here at the top of this live Thursday edition of Gulfstream today on this March 15th, and give you a little rundown as to some of the big wagers on tap. And it all begins in race number 1 in about an hour, give or take, with the 50-cent early pick 5 field of 6 3-year-olds, in fact, ringing in the opening race on the main track. The opening high 5 today kicks off in race number 2, and the first 4 today, Acacia, will be run over that fast main track.
Yes, of course, the rolling super high 5, any race with 7 or more runners, and then we do move along to the Rainbow Six. That is the biggest story, $3.2 million, plus it just keeps going like the Energizer Bunny. But race number 5 is where it will start today on the 10-race program, and then we wrap things up with the 50-cent late pick 5.
Sounds pretty good. Really, actually, speaking of good, a very deep field of older fillies and mares are ready to battle in today's featured 9th race. That is the centerpiece on this Ides of March program here at Gulfstream Park, and certainly the centerpiece in both the Rainbow Six and that 50-cent late pick 5. So it begins. We are fast and firm. Couldn't have asked for a nicer day in the weather department here in Hallandale Beach. And what are we doing in this early pick 5?
All right, we'll show you my ticket, and I had a little bit of a tough time narrowing things down. I think even in this first race right now, you've got all the money coming to Stronger. First off, the claim for Mark Hennig on the outside. An interesting claim that we don't often see for this barn, which has been going very well lately, but you really can make a case for several in the first race. In race number 2, I'm going to use 2 horses, one first-time starter and the 2 with experience. You do have an interesting first-time starter in there for Saffie Joseph Jr. and Master Rory, who should take a bit of play. In the 3rd race, I think 8-Minute Ellie really could just control the pace, and I did consider singling her, but I did end up backing myself up with Sweet Magic. In race number 4, I'm going to go 3 deep. You've got a couple of rematch horses, and I think it should be a very interesting race as we get down to it as far as how the pace does shake out. And another horse I considered singling was just Teak in race number 5. I think that horse off of that race last time out, but I'm really intrigued by Jimmy Jerkins' Firestern American Guru with the hot riding Luis Saez.
And that horse, a Stronach homebred, a somewhat belated career debut from that 4-year-old by the late, great Unbridled Song, who, speaking of that Breeders' Cup Distaff victory with inside information back in 1995 at Belmont Park, I think of Unbridled Song gamely putting away Hennessy in deep stretch to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Now, as we begin, we'll do so with 4 consecutive dirt races to start the Thursday card, and 3-year-olds, in fact, ring in the opening race today at a 1-turn mile in this $50,000 starter optional claimer. And for me, I also noticed, obviously, Mark Hennig very much a part of the conversation, and a claim that maybe comes around for this barn even less than the Ides of March, because Mark's only run 5 horses first off the claim over the last 5 years. Stronger will be the 6th.
And I saw the same thing, but just given how well the barn has been going lately, 24% at this meet, some really nice runners. I know that this horse was beaten by another in this field in King Billy, but I really do think that, first of all, he's going to get a good pace setup. He's going to sit a really good trip with that outside post, picks up Luis Saez off of the layoff, and this is a horse that I remember when he first broke his maiden and talking to Eric Guillot, and they put him right in the Grade 1 Champagne, and obviously he was not able to compete at that level, but he was third in the smooth air and the slop. He's been a pretty solid horse, and I do think he has talent. So maybe just a bit of a freshening since the end of January. Yes, it's a rare claim, but clearly a sharp barn that saw something good in this horse.
Laid up about 50 days as he comes back with leading rider Luis Saez, who picked up his 113th win of the meet. The record, by the way,
crazy.
132. Javier Castellano a few winters back here at Gulfstream Park. So with 13 full days left, and I don't think Louis riding here Saturday afternoon. I believe Magnum Moon might call for Todd Pletcher, but Louis very much has a chance if he stays healthy and gets on a bit of a run to maybe set a new record. Now, Erod Ortiz has done just fine for himself as well. In fact, he's got, 79 victories, sitting second in the standings, and I like him getting aboard the 3 King Billy, who, I think has enough early speed to potentially control in a race that doesn't have a ton of early foot, and I like that he's posted outside the 1 Agujero, and I'm going to give him a pass for his last race, as he's one of 3, in fact, that competed here February 17th in the American Fabius when he was just over his head.
He was. He never really got involved there. I do think it's a plus that Erod Ortiz stays. I thought it was going to be interesting with Agujero because I think with that inside post and some of his natural speed, his hand is going to be forced and he's going to have to send from the inside. But that's the tough thing with these races coming out of the chute, too. And the post really does kind of dictate where the race will unfold. That horse has recency. He broke his maiden last time out by open lengths, but he's kind of took a while to get there, you know?
I would say so, as Antonio Sano sends out Agujero and the 2 Mr. Miyago. He's got a third of the field in today's first race, and Antonio seeing action in a few races today at Gulfstream. As we flip the page, we go on to race number 2, and we cut back to 5.5 furlongs on the main. Now, on this March 15th, we have our opening day, opening card, and opening race of 3-year-olds and older horses being able to run against one another, and that adds an intriguing little layer and wrinkle, I think, going forward. And we do have a 3-year-old and upward maiden $35,000 claimer in the second race. And as I work my way through, Chase Your Dreams and Master Rory, the 2, the first are for Safi, who you mentioned, Acacia, a few moments back. They may vie for favoritism, but in the case of Master Rory, you're dealing with a 5-year-old first-time starter who sold for decent money at OBS, but that was OBS April about 35 months ago. And then the 5 Chase Your Dreams, 0 for 8, has burned some money. So it was almost by process of elimination and getting Gaffleone to boot on the 3 Resistance Jack. That was good enough for me. Yeah,
and you touched on everything that I had concerns about with Master Rory. And also, too, Safi Joseph Jr. does a great job with his horses, but firsters are not really the strongest numbers that you will see for the barn. There's definitely some pedigree on the bottom side. Have to a multiple stakes winner and another horse that was great at stakes place. The dam was precocious, but it's taken a while to get this horse to the track. As far as Resistance Jack, picking up Tyler Gaffleone today has been freshened since the end of December, and it's just kind of, he's a 3-year-old, he's dialed in, but he's making his second start. They debuted for 50. He's going to run for the 35 today, and I thought the way that he's been working since was encouraging. 2 very strong works, coming off of 3 very strong works, in fact, and just thinking he's going to be in the right spot.
And the recent record here at the meet for trainer Rodolfo Garcia doesn't tell the story. Obviously, more of a mom and pop, very modest-sized operation, but a trainer that does a good job and had a pretty solid run throughout the entire spring and summer here at Gulfstream in 2017. We're out to 2 turns, which is a good thing, in race number 3 on the main. First finish line in use, everybody, as we go a mile and a 16th with these 3-year-old filly, $50,000 to $40,000 maiden claimers, in a race in which there are a few drop downs, and I prefer drop downs, including, speaking of Antonio Sano, he's got the 2 Sweet Magic, who's back down in a maiden 50, and she's one of a couple of fillies coming out of the 9th race here on February 14th. That day, and we'll show you the race from the start, in fact, the head-on with the number 6 Secret Pleasure, who on this particular day just was off I know she was 15-1, but boy, any chance she had with that bad stumble. And after that, it just seemed to really set her off. She was really unhappy around the first turn. The jock had a pretty snug hold of her, and she just really resented, I think, the first half mile of that run on February 14th. Even though she's coming out of maybe the more interesting trip compared to Sweet Magic, I just have a little more confidence in Sweet Magic staying this demanding 8.5 furlongs.
Well, I do too. I think the fact that Secret Pleasure has never been exposed to claiming company with this barn. She did debut for the tag at Churchill Downs in the fall. She's running special weight in her last two, and she's just seemed to be one that needed to take a drop too. I know she had some trouble last time. I preferred a horse that did face Sweet Magic 2 starts back, but I think that it's kind of a fact of trying to find the right spot for 8-Minute Ellie, and I have liked her too. She had a little bit more pressure 2 starts back than I think that she's going to get today. I think that she could potentially control the pace in here, and that's my hope under jockey Luis Saez. She tried the turf last time, and she actually ran okay. They're going back to the dirt, and here's the stat on trainer Dale Romans in the past 5 years. Going from turf to dirt with maiden claimers at Gulfstream, it's not a huge sample size, but he's 4 for 10 and 5 for 10 in the money. So he's had quite a bit of success and a positive ROI. So this is a kind of move that I think is the right one for her. She's going to get the good race flow, and I'm hoping that her speed on what seems to be her preferred surface will carry her through.
And I hope it works out for Dale on the stat. I wouldn't mind taking a dip right now in that infield lake, which looks blue and looks pretty amazing on a beautiful Thursday afternoon at Gulfstream Park. Perfect weather for thoroughbred racing as we move on to race number 4 this afternoon, just a race out from the Rainbow Six as we wrap up the opening 4 races today on the main track, and we sprint 3/4 of a mile with these 3-year-old and upward $20,000 to $16,000 claimers. And I certainly gave a long look to perhaps the big 2 in some people's opinions who are coming out of the same race here towards the end of February, and that is the 1, Tomato Gator with the cool name, and the 3, Rogue Patriot. More of a window dressing replay, but boy, did they hook up, and they really both put on a pretty good show, whereas Rogue Patriot was 3 to 5. He was the one vying outside and battling outside, and Tomato Gator, who was on this day trained by Jorge Navarro, gutted out the win at 2 to 1 and was claimed out of this one by Angel Rodriguez.
In fact, both claimed out of here, and pretty game performance from Tomato Gator, and he does have that speed, which is definitely his biggest weapon. And curious what we'll get from Joe Kane on the outside with that big drop in class off that huge layoff, but I really think that he could potentially be the fastest, and especially with the inside. I thought Rogue Patriot ran a good race. I wanted a fresh face in here, and I went for one that you're going to get a price on, and I really like this horse today, and that's the number 4 Puerto Rican Style. And here's a stat on trainer Tammy Levy. First off the claim on the dirt at Gulfstream. This is a very sharp barn. She has a horse that's looking to make it 3 in a row, but she's 8 for 22 for 36% win, 55% of the time in the money, a positive ROI. She comes from a horse background. She has a great eye, a fantastic horsewoman, and I know it's a bit of a step up for him, but the way he's running his last couple of starts, this horse is in great form, keeps her at Ortiz. March 4th at Gulfstream Park West, 47-4 for 4 furlongs. So I really like this horse at a potential price.
Sounds good, and I prefer a claim 2 in the 6 High Blue, who I see you have third. I'm not sure if you're going to get the 8 to 1.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think this horse maybe even half that if you're lucky, because the recent races are pretty good relative to this level of 20K. I've got no issue with him losing his last against Caloric, who was a big Todd Pletcher drop down and last out maiden winner back on February 7th. And then the icing on the cake is first off the claim. You talked about Tammy doing so well, but Gilberto Zerpa, excellent off the claim, obviously bats at a high percentage in general, but it really seems when he gets Jaramillo to ride first off the claim, they're going to the window. And
first off the claim in the money last time out, a very good number and a very good percentage for this barn as well. So you've got some really sharp outfits that I think it's going to be a good battle in this race.
How about 3.2 million plus? We chase the rainbow, a whole lot more coming your way after this.
Pennsylvania, proud of our growing breeding and racing industry. Tens of thousands of jobs with a massive economic impact. Now, North America's most lucrative awards program will pay a 50% breeder award for PA-sired, PA-bred maidens who run first, second, or third, with 25% for non-PA-sired PA-breds. Plus, up to 40% in owner bonuses, 400-plus restricted races, and our program has paid out $30 million for the 6th straight year. Breeding and racing in Pennsylvania. It's a winner.
Saturday, March 31st in Gulfstream Park. Be here as the country's top 3-year-old thoroughbreds compete for glory in the 67th running of the ExpressBet.com Florida Derby. Experience this epic day of live racing with over $2.5 million at stake. Admission and parking absolutely free. Men and women, come dressed in your Derby best and win fabulous prizes. Visit GulfstreamPark.com for details. The ExpressBet.com Florida Derby. Witness the crowning of a champion. Welcome to your playground, Gulfstream Park.
Unbelievable. Just 16 days out from that ExpressBet.com Florida Derby card. Acacia Jason, obviously back with you on this live edition of Gulfstream today. And I might have to enter that Derby Best fashion contest. I may have to break one of my beautiful Derby Day hats out.
I didn't know you had any, but I'm excited to see now.
Big collection.
I'm excited to see now.
Yeah, that'll be a super Saturday, and of course that is really the focal point. I mean, we have the Pegasus here in late January, but the Florida Derby does not take a backseat, nor does that entire Florida Derby program take a backseat to any racing day, really throughout the year in the United States, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Stakes galore, and we can see who can win the dress rehearsal here for the Kentucky Derby, which obviously it's amazing just how fruitful that race has been in the last, say, quarter century, and certainly in the last 5 years. I think we've got 3 Kentucky Derby winners who have come out of the Florida Derby.
Always Dreaming, Nyquist, and Orb have gone on to win the Kentucky Derby, and so it's been a very fruitful race, so we're pretty excited to see who's going to take it this year. But as Jason mentioned, the entire card will be spectacular, and just you can feel the electricity building up to that day as well. So it's that time of year that everybody loves.
And will the Rainbow Six, will this big jackpot carryover continue on through Florida Derby Day on that Saturday, March 31st? We'll see. We've got, well, another 6 races in the puzzle today, and how much dough are we spending?
Well, it is a puzzle. You're right about that. I did find a single today. I'm going with 3240 this afternoon. I've got 2 horses to start things off. I think that the number 1 teak for Christophe Clement will be a very short price. Going with 3 horses in race number 6, that's pretty wide open. I think you're going to have, I think, a better effort from Jailhouse Kitten. I really like Crown to the Golden. I was actually really bummed to find out that he was the morning line favorite because I've been chasing him for quite a while. In the 7th race, that's going to be my single. I'm going with the 7 Xandar. We have a great stat coming up on Jorge Navarro, second off the claim with this kind of drop. I just think he's going to have the right pace setup as well. In the 8th race and 9th and 10th, I'm going 3 deep in each of those. And you alluded to the 9th race, the featured race today. This is going to be a really fun one to see how things shake out. I imagine Magical Sky probably going to take quite a bit of money from Mark Cassie, who does have 2 in there. Hopefully we make it to the last leg, which is pretty wide open.
Oh, that's a very difficult race. Like you, I prefer and did prefer in my late pick 5 Logical Horses as the Castellano boys team up with Kid McCool, and towards the outside with the 7 Iron Johnny. But that is a, boy, that's that's a very tough race to close things down. But again, that is way down the line in Thursday's 10th race as we begin the opening leg of the Rainbow Six with Teak in this 3-and-up maiden special weight opening turf race as well on the card. And we'll show you Teak's last race. And although he was 2-1 turf debut, opened up that clear lead. That's him just flying along on the front end in the green silks for Christophe Clement. And although he blew that clear lead and checked in second, of course, that cut him down in this race. And Primus really looks like a turf sprinter with the future for trainer Tim Hills.
Oh, absolutely. He came back to win again, and I know we'll show the chart of this race, but this has proved to be a really fruitful race. And even at this point, with Teak just drifting a bit, showing some greenness for sure, getting a bit leg weary now after that open lead. It was his first start on the turf, and I do think he's going to take a step forward
and
now.
That race, the boys upstairs have queued up the chart for us. You've had 3 horses actually come out of that race and win. Imprimis, who looks like at the very least, a stakes turf sprinting quality runner. You've also had Charlie River, the stablemate of Teak, come back and get it done, and at odds. So 4 have returned with 3 next at winners. That is pretty good. And we hate going on and on and on about a horse who might be in the realm of 6 to 5 or 7 to 5. But I think the point is that if you're putting in a more budget-sized ticket, whether you're talking the early pick 5 or the Rainbow 6, you might want to give Teak just the single status.
Yeah, I could certainly see that, and I think that he might be a single for quite a few people, because not only did those horses come back and win, but you saw they all had Beyer speed figures 80 and above, and they were all visually impressive, all 3 of them. The number 2 American Guru was the other one that really intrigued me. It's out of an unraced mare by Unbridled Song, but the work tab is really intriguing, and just kind of the role that Jimmy Jerkins has been on lately with some really nice horses, especially for Stronach Stables. Louis Sias in the saddle. I thought that a firster could potentially shake things up, and curious what we're going to get from Scribe, who got an 81 Beyer speed figure from his first start.
Race came up unbelievably fast for the level. He did not face nearly the kind of talent he may get with the 1 Teak, and he might get with one of the firsters in the race, including the 2 American Guru. But that being said, this horse did not back down, looked the 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 favorite Blue Chip Prospect in the eye, and it wasn't until deep stretch where he just started to finally tire. A very good race with him and the winner in that race back on January 5th, well clear of everybody else.
Yes, and it is worth noting 6 have run back with only 1 winner, and that horse got a 56 Beyer speed figure. So this will be a very telling day.
No doubt. All right, let's move on to race number 6, halfway home on this March 15th, as we bring on race number 6 for 3-year-olds, $35,000 maiden claimers, meeting at a mile and a 16th on the turf. I love your confidence in the 8 Crown to the Goal, because as we look at my late pick 5, I couldn't make heads or tails of this race, and I wound up using 4, and that's the Blue at Thursday spreadathon, 2-4-6-8 to start things out. I prefer, and I like Xandar as a veteran, and Navarre does great with these older geldings that have a decent amount of miles on them, but I used him, of course, but I also prefer Black Jet and the number 8 horse on the outside, Small Fortune. Both of those horses have early speed, and I think they are the 2 best speeds in that race. 8th race, I might be a touch light. I used more or less a new face closer and a horse who's going to pull a good trip, I think, right on the engine from the rail, but Nick Juarez, I loved Magical Sky's last race. I thought she was just so impressive, and she'll face better, but I think she's pretty good, and she'll step up. And as I said, 10th race might be a touch light there as well. I had a tough time maybe getting a little cute with some of the bigger priced horses, so I'm going to use the Castellano boys and the number 7 Iron Johnny for Mike Maker and Tyler Gaffalione. So it begins in race 6, and as I was saying, I love your confidence in the outside horse, Crown of the Gold, so why don't you take it away as you try to get Reed Nagel off the schneid. Speaking of Rodolfo Garcia, who's a better trainer than his current record at the meet suggests, Reed Nagel right up there too.
Oh, absolutely. A very good trainer and has had a lot of success with Carlos Montalvo. Well, he's by Crown of Thorns, so you know I like him on the turf already. I have literally been chasing this horse since September 1st, and there have been a couple times recently when he's given me a big scare because I didn't pick him last time, and he was second at 32 to 1 behind the well-bet Oxbrow. And I do think that this is a horse that's just kind of, he's taken his time. He's not the most consistent, but there's good numbers for second off the claim for Reed Nagel. Given the way that he ran last time, he's not going to be that big of a price again. You may get him to drift up a little bit more with the presence of Mike Maker and Graham Motion in here, but I do think that he's coming in the best that he's been lately off of that last race, and I'm hoping today's finally the day.
Now we'll see how much speed he gets.
Exactly.
It does worry me because he does take himself at times fairly far out of his races, and that might be even exaggerated today, going a mile and a 16th where he's got to make up that ground. And my thinking in taking the number 6 Tirabashi for Graham Motion is I think this horse has got enough speed, taking that slight drop to maiden 35, where he can get forwardly placed and perhaps up in that driver's seat along with the number 3 Space Captain and the number 4 Painter's Boy.
Yes, I think that those horses will be in the first flight for sure. Probably Painter's Boy maybe showing the most of the speed, switching back onto the turf. And Hey Howie's pretty tactical too. I thought I had no problem with his last race. He was actually right behind Crown to the Gold. So if I like that horse, I kind of have to like this one too. The biggest question mark in here is Jailhouse Kitten, who was bet last time and just fired a complete dud. I mean, his race 2 back, I think, is good enough to win, but what version will we get?
I don't know. The positives of all that is the horse has come back and he's worked a couple of times, March 3rd and March 10th, so just a 7-day span between breezes, which I like to see, and everybody is going to see that Jose Ortiz is back aboard today. I know this is a Ramsey Maker horse, and at times you're going to ride for just a high-profile, high-percentage outfit just because that's the case, but I can't really see Jose getting, or Maker wanting Jose back on this horse if he did not feel like whatever went wrong with Jailhouse Kitten would be rectified today.
Yeah, sometimes, and we say it all the time, you just have to follow the musical jockeys in whatever race it is.
No doubt. In this case, he stays right on that son of Kitten's Joy. On to race number 7 we go as we check out this hard-hitting crew of older $16,000 claimers sprinting 5 furlongs on the turf. And as I said at the top of my late pick 5, I prefer the bookend speeds. Black Jet gave him obviously a long look as he just dropped slightly second off the claim for trainer Ralph Zadie, who, and I've talked about this before, it just seems on a horse-for-horse basis, he's got more quality older turf sprinters than any other barn on this circuit, and I think that works well with a horse like Black Jet, who more or less is a 5-furlong turf sprinting specialist. I also think the 8 Small Fortune on the outside for Ruben Gracida will pull a good trip, but I certainly respect the 7 Xandar, who, if, again, the 1-8 and even a little Billy the Bull hook up, Xandar's going to be looking to just roll right by them.
That's my hope, and that's kind of how I saw the race, and it is wide open, and these are some tough older turf sprinters that are very easy to root for, but the number 7 Xandar, who I liked when he was with Brendan Walsh, and last time would have liked to see more from him for sure, but he takes a drop, and here's a stat on Jorge Navarro, which I found this fascinating. This is second off the claim, going from allowance to claiming, and he's 6 for 15 winning and 11 for 15 in the money. And I was, first of all, surprised that it wasn't a huge sample size for this kind of barn, and that the numbers were so strong, especially the in the money numbers with a positive ROI. So this is where I landed, keeping Gerardo Ortiz and just hoping that he gets a good race flow.
Yeah, I think that tells us many times, or at least in that sample, horses off the claim, stepping up in class, whatever they were claimed for, trying allowance company, right back down and getting the money. A real good nugget there with Xandar and Jorge Navarro. Race number 8 today as we head down the stretch. Final pick 3 begins here at 7.5 furlongs on the turf. These are 3 and up. Filly Mare, 2 lifetime $12,500 claimers, and the City Zip filly on the rail is taking a little modest drop in terms of claiming price, but I think there is potentially a significant difference between who she faced last time out and who she's lining up in the starting gate here. She'll likely have to win either just blasting off or tracking, most likely, the number 7 Durbin. That's the one gray area with her. She has not run all that great rating in the past, but I'll take her for Nick Juarez and Kelly Breen.
And she's a really good-looking filly for sure. Lanaya Kia, I think, is how you say it. We were asking Pete Aiello this morning. He, I'm sure, will pronounce it right. But she was beaten by Plain Air, who came back to win with a 72 buyer speed figure, and the speed is definitely her best running style. I took a stab with the number 8 Miss Americaine, who is far from a sure thing, but I think that she fits at this level, and I think that she, unlike some of the other big players in here, is best when she's rating just a little bit off the pace for a good barn in Kathleen O'Connell.
Yeah, quite simply just back on the surface in which she wants to run. I tried her last time, thought she might stay the trip against a distance challenge field going a mile, and she was miserable in that race. Back to the green stuff today at Gulfstream Park. Absolutely, as we, of course, stay on the green stuff for the late double, and race number 9 is our West Point race of the day and our Thursday feature, and rightfully so. It is a good one in this near $60,000 high class, that is, and high quality allowance optional claimer for older fillies and mares. And Mark Casse, good to be him these days. He's had a wonderful meet here at Gulfstream Park, 24 wins and counting, and he's only run about 105 horses or so. So things continue to go well for the Casse barn in South Florida. He's got the British-bred Bletchley, who does get Johnny V, but she does spot her stablemate some recency here at Gulfstream Park. And as far as the last race, and we'll show you the effort back on February 18th with Magical Sky, I remember, because she was such a big favorite and the barn had already heated up around this time, liking her a lot, as did a lot of people. She was even money, and thinking, man, Julian was very lax and very confident, really didn't seem to appear to be in a hurry to get her into the race. And once he obviously asked her for run and really started to set her down, she did the rest with a very impressive turn of foot. Sharp effort from Magical Sky, who seems, Acacia, to just be getting the hang of things.
I think that she does, and even looking at her, just her action coming down to the stretch, and finally towards the wire, she really gets into the bit and settles in, and she really finds her stride. But Julian never really asked her until the end. You're absolutely right, and I think he fits this horse like a glove. Obviously, he's had been aboard for both of her wins, and she really seems to be coming in the right way off of that win last time out. Slight stretch out again to the mile and 16th, and I do think that her stablemate, especially picking up John Velasquez and Bletchley, who has been firing bullets on the Palm Meadows turf course, working very, very well. She is the type, looking at her European races, that she is going to be coming from off the pace as well. This could really be kind of a cavalry charge down to the wire, as I've always liked the #1 Temple Fur. And she was a good fourth last time behind Holy Helena, who came back to win a Grade 3 very impressively in the very one with the 92 buyer.
I like Temple Fur as well. She's a mainstay on this circuit year-round. She's very blue-collar. She runs on a fairly consistent basis, and she tries hard, and she's never, ever a short price. Got to respect her for that, running against good fields and always seemingly giving a good effort. As we close things down, race number 10 today on a fast and firm March 15th at Gulfstream. 3-year-olds in the $16,000 maiden claimer to wrap up the day at 7.5 furlongs. Had a feeling, even before I saw your picks, that there is almost two different schools. There are the 3 favorites in the 2 Spring Joy, the #3 Kid McCool, and the #7 Iron Johnny, and then there's everybody else. And as I said with that late pick 5, I just, even though I don't fully trust the 3 favorites, I just had a hard time getting cute with the bigger priced horses here in race number 10.
I really did too. I mean, I just took Mike Maker on the drop on the turf and hoping that that's going to be good enough for me. Kid McCool, great to see Abel and Javier Castellano teaming up again. This horse was very keyed up last time out, though, bucking in the saddling area. So we'll see if he's able to settle more today.
Well, our man Pete Aiello not bucking, but he is keyed up as he steps on the set, ready to roll. It's a Thursday. March Madness begins here at Gulfstream, everybody. Pete's up next.